For the future generation, we need to find solutions right now for a better future because of climate change. And edible insects are a solution right now.
Climate change is prompting a re-evaluation of animal-based proteins across the food sector. One company in Switzerland is looking to lower its carbon footprint by introducing insects as their flagship sustainable superfood product.
My name is Jean-Yves Coindet. I'm owner of Entomos. We are selling a food product made with edible insect.
Americans beware! You will own nothing, eat bugs, and be happy about it. Now, this is basically what Klaus said at the World Economic Forum back a few years ago, and we're just gearing up towards 2030. And you know, the way America looks right now, the complaints that our clients have been giving us, the stuff that's happening with this war, it's looking like it's going to come true, especially with this fertilizer issue in the Middle East, because there are phases like this that sound like satire. Like, this sounds like a joke, like, oh, nothing, be happy, eat bugs. What is this? But this is not an exaggeration. This is the state of the American economy. And with the rise of the age of AI, everybody knows it now.
Yeah, this is not a joke. This is really not a joke. It's something just how you guys saw the video at the beginning of this video. It's like, wow, like they really try to experiment with Americans. And you can look back in history and see this clearly. Like, really, they experiment with people. You know, it might be some groups of people, but now it's all the citizens that is not paying attention, that is not trying to grow their own food, that is really trying to do the organic thing and like be sustainable for themselves. So it is very important. Like, it's not a joke. Eat bugs. This is something that they are literally putting into meats. So you have to be careful. This is why we say grow your own food, grow your own meats. If that's something that you want to do, you know, if you want to eat that, the safest bet, especially in America, is to do it yourself.
Absolutely. Or if you cannot, be in network with the farmers market. I remember as a young girl, my granny would take me to the farmers market out there in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. If you know Reynoldsburg, Ohio, drop an emoji down below. But you can get in networks with people who have things that you don't have. But listen, let's talk about this shadow of war that is overreaching America and will plunge America into the 2030 World Economic Forum agenda of you owning nothing, eating bugs, and being happy about it. See, war in the modern sense rarely arrives with a single defining moment. Oh no. Instead, it doesn't look like boots on the ground or headlines or anything like that. It seeps into your daily life through systems, through pricing, through availability, through quiet policy shifts that change behavior forever, long before people realize that they have already adapted to it. And what we are witnessing is not necessarily the arrival of a dystopian age. It's the emergence of conditions that make such a lifestyle feel increasingly normalized, like something that you'll just wake up and say, wow, we don't own anything, don't have any businesses, barely have a job, depend on the government for everything, but we'll be happy about it. They're feeding us scorpions and ants in our food because the fertilizer is plugged up in the Middle East, but it's okay. Today, that model is evolving into something that looks so creepy from the sci-fi movie channel. Subscription-based living, digital platforms, centralized services are reshaping how people are able to get access to what they need. Transportation became ride sharing. Software became monthly licenses. Sometimes people even have subscriptions for their food services in the States. And now housing, mobility, and even more of your food is going to become subsidized in a different way. Now, this isn't like inherently malicious. In many ways, it seems efficient. But when you get outside of America the way we have been for the past 6 years, you get to see what humanity really does from the outside. And it makes you feel like America's just a creepy dungeon place that's almost like a matrix that doesn't feel real. Because humans in the real world outside of America, like in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, the islands, even Asia, they live life much differently.
Yeah, that's something that you really have to think about, of how they want to print meat. So that's something that they are setting this up perfectly. You know, either you're going to eat bugs or you're going to eat the printed meat. So this is why I said you have to learn, you have to change your mindset to be sustainable yourself, because you really can't trust anything that they are doing, especially with the foods. You get what I'm saying? So the import is going to slow down. The transportation is going to slow down. Grocery stores are going to start being empty. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be packed.
That is so true.
Yeah, you can't trust. You got to really see what's going on. So I know we see all the videos about, like the other day I saw a video of this lady. She said she brought a McDonald's hamburger in 2002, I want to say, or something like that. But the hamburger was like 20 years old and it still looked perfectly fine. The fries and things like that still look perfectly fine. So, I mean, we definitely know that. You get what I'm saying? And then once you really start to do research about McDonald's meat and things like, oh man, it just
McDonald's meat in the States, and understand
it gets deep. It really gets deep.
A lot of people say that like everywhere on earth is like this, but a lot of you don't realize. Leave a comment down below if you are not in this number and you do realize European food standards are different from Americans.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There are foods that are banned in Europe that their people do not even eat, that Americans eat. If you taste butter that comes from France instead of America, it's like night and day difference. The butter tastes like cheese. So something is going severely wrong with America. And like we were saying, it's almost like a test ground. Like whoever elites, World Economic Forum, whatever people, they decided, hey, let's make America the land of the guinea pigs that we're going to feed all of the most horrible things to and see what it does to them as humans. Now, we elected to, of course, leave that society because we knew that they were doing that. Even at a very young age, we knew that, okay? Which brings me to the urgent state of the diaspora in Africa. See, here's the thing. We've been speaking about it this week, and we haven't even done that many videos, and already there are only about 4 slots left in the urgent state of the diaspora that happens this Sunday, April 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Read the link in the description carefully to get your ticket. And we are going over the best places, but we are really focusing on the Swahili coast and the islands for the best residencies and your best travel routes and the best way to be in agricultural networks and to understand which bank accounts you can open, because there's a whole list of things that you need to do beforehand before ever landing in Africa. So check out the link in the description. If you know you're exhausted from figuring this out yourself, you hear stories of people that are like, oh my gosh, my money got locked up and frozen while abroad, or oh my gosh, I had this shipping container and then it exploded in the Middle East. You don't have to go through any of that stuff when you join the state of the diaspora. Now, this is how adjustments are going to train your behavior slowly over time. Notice, it's not super loud in our faces like COVID-19. Okay, instead, this time they're doing something more subtle. You're going to accept that you have fewer choices at the grocery store, different ingredients, things that taste different, alternative sources of protein. That's where the bugs come in. Not because you prefer them, but because the system gently nudges you to change things in that direction. This is how normalization occurs over time. Over time, it'll just erode your ability to critical think because it's so subtle that 6, 12, 18 months down the line, you look back and you're like, wait, how did we get all these bugs in the grocery store? Why are things like this? Why is the gas this high? Why is any of this happening? But it's been slowly eroding and happening over time. And let's be real. Energy is going to be the new form of lockdown because they are already citing that the European Union is going to lose their electricity about next week.
Wow. Yeah. Australia also. It's starting to, I know we talk about it, and you got to know that it's the middle of April now. So we're pretty much almost halfway through this year of 2026. And I feel like 2026 just started. You know, Q2, things like that. It's right here in our face. So this is why we say, you know, you have to step out and don't be fearful. That's number one. Don't allow fear to stop you from doing what you need to do to protect yourself and your family and be sustainable and really have a strategy. Because just I was talking to someone the other day, and I was telling them, yes, or I was giving them information, but they didn't have the information that I provided. And they was just so thankful. But I was saying, like, yes, information is key. Like, knowledge is key in these days, because if you do not know this stuff, if you don't do your research and things like that, when it comes to food, when it comes to how they are pushing certain things and just allowing people to live their everyday life, and then all of a sudden they look up and see that they have no choice, really. It's either one bad choice or another bad choice. And that's literally what's happening right now. But this is why we say, move while you can, because it's just going to get worse. It's going to get more expensive. It's going to be more difficult to move around. It's going to be more difficult to move your resources around
to obtain residency.
So, yeah, this is why I tell people, like, it's so interesting how the last couple of people I've been talking to, they have been talking about liquidating their assets to move out of America, because they are listening to people that they work with that have big assets, and they are liquidating it too. So they see, like, and these are other nations that's doing this.
Lawyers, massage therapists, these are some of our recent clients that are like, oh,
yeah, why? Like,
because the higher up people, they're not about to just lose all their money in the American economy crash.
Yeah,
they see what's coming.
Exactly. They see what's coming, and they're doing the right thing. They're liquidating their assets, turning to cash flowing assets somehow, but they're moving from America, basically. They're not trying to keep their assets in America. And that's very important that people really have to understand. America is a fallen society. Although it might look good, although they're telling you all-time highs in the stock market, things like that, but behind the scenes, you should know it's falling.
Yeah, culturally it's fallen. We know America is the land of the LGBTQ plus IA everything agenda. America is also the land where there's no real food. You know, people return from Africa, Europe, and go back to America and wind up sick because they were used to eating organic food outside of the States. That should tell you right there that if you elect to put yourself in the matrix, then you are putting yourself in a hamster wheel, in a maze that you're choosing not to get out of, and you elect to do it by electing to live there. Where you choose to live, where you choose to do business, where you choose to invest and raise your children and be married and whatever else you're doing in life is your choice and your election into a system. So when you live in America, just know that you are electing yourself into the true matrix, because again, I mean, this should tell you, Europeans are not eating the same foods as Americans. You know, Africans definitely aren't eating the same foods. Sub-Saharan Africa is extremely fertile. Most people in Sub-Saharan Africa have local farms literally everywhere, fruit stands all around. And now the unification of Africa and trade alliances, I mean, we just had some strawberries that were from Tunisia. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. But it's showing you that this side of the world is operating much different, which also reminds me of the Mature Adult Intensive, which happens May 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern. See, again, we make so much content and there's so much demand right now because everybody sees the writing on the wall. And expats, retirees, and entrepreneurs are like, I don't really care about cultural dances. I don't really care about what looks fun and lifestyle. I want to see my geopolitical risk factors. I want to see which residence is going to give me 10 to 20 year residency. I want to see somewhere that has anti-corruption, because let's be real, there are huge cases out right now in certain countries that are very corrupt, where people are paying people off to unalive Americans. Let's be real. And so the only true countries that you should be in are like a Seychelles, a Mauritius, a Rwanda, and even a landlocked country. You still want to have some variance and some optionality there. And so that is why you should visit www.journeywithusmove2africa.com/services to enroll in cohort 8 of the Mature Adult Intensive. Seats are limited though, so once it's gone, it's gone. If the link doesn't work, that means you're too late.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to set yourself up properly. You know, I was just like talking to a wiser woman, an older woman, And she was like, yeah, I want to go to Kenya, but I know I did the research. I just don't want to pay that money, this and that. And I said, you're retired. Come here, go to this country, get your residency.
10 years.
And then you can leave.
Right.
Don't try to go somewhere and it's difficult to get residency year by year, 2 years at a time. And then, you know, you're in a whole situation because when the holiday season comes up, you get what I'm saying? Take notes right here. And when you are traveling to Africa in these corrupt countries and the holiday season comes up, you're gonna get approached by police. You're gonna get approached by immigration. They're gonna start cracking down even more and put you in situations. So you just don't want to be in situations like that.
You want optionality.
Yeah, where you can set yourself up, be good, go travel wherever country you want to. Oh, it's holiday time. I'm going back to where I got residency long term.
Yeah.
And enjoy the beach.
Yeah.
So
right. That's so good because especially if you're a
strategy
retiree or you're single or you're married with only one child, you may want to vacation all over the continent. We have people in our community that have residency here. Their 10-year permit, literally 10 years, then it renews to 20 years. It's very simple and easy to get as of right now, so don't be late. It won't always be like that, but right now it's like that. But they'll go to Rwanda, go visit Kenya. Like, you can still enjoy the continent, but have your place that's securing you a good 10 years because we are in global turmoil, okay?
Yeah.
You can still decide, I want to be in South Africa for 2 months. I want to be in Senegal for a month. I want to be in Ghana for a month. Then in 2030, maybe I'll be in Ethiopia for a month. But there is only one country in Africa that actually issues a 10-year permit the way that Thailand does for their expatriates, okay? There's only one, period. And if you've been paying attention to this channel, then you know which one it is. Now, the average person may never see the negotiations that are now on the table, but they are going to feel the outcome. So many Americans are asleep, but we know that if you're watching this channel, you are of the remnant that is not asleep, that actually has some critical thinking still there, some discernment, a prayer life. You actually pay attention to what's happening. Higher prices, delays in mobility, reduced availability, increased messaging around conversations and adaptation. And this isn't speculation. It's a pattern that's being seen in multiple regions because understand, in the States, when driving becomes too expensive, people drive less.
Man, I was just
when
saying,
flights become unstable or restricted, people travel less.
Yeah.
And if energy grids are under pressure, usage becomes monitored with AI.
Yeah, that's so true. I was just seeing a video about how I think it's in California, maybe LA or something. And when you park, you know, you go to the parking thing and you put your coins in. It's $25. It's $25 just to park.
Oh, hell no. No. Why you shock me like that?
Yeah, because you was just reading and I'm like, dang, people really paying like $25 to park at like a parking machine. And it's like, dang, like I remember doing that. I remember going to these little things.
It wasn't no $25 though.
Putting 4 quarters in and be good. But
We're
yeah,
from Ohio.
$25. So prices are increasing, you know. If you got the resources, you better start that business. You better start a parking business, you know. That's something right there.
Well, you know, America has super regulations on stuff like that, but that's crazy because it really goes in with our whole theme that we're talking about. You will own nothing because if they can squeeze all your money out of you, it doesn't matter if you have a $200K salary when your expenses are $300K a year in California. So wouldn't it be better if you just had a $90K salary, $80K salary, but you live somewhere where your expenses are only $40,000 a year? Wouldn't you save more, invest more, have more money, and actually be wealthier than the person that is not able to save and invest their money in America, although they're making more on paper? See, this is where strategy comes into play. This is where financial knowledge, like, it doesn't help to make $500K a year. If your expenses are $700, $800K a year and you're taking out loans just to be able to walk down the street and enjoy a cup of coffee, that is not a life. That is modern day slavery. Okay? America didn't really get rid of slavery. They just made it in a new form. Of course, you're not getting whipped and lashed and beaten and physical beaten and all that, but you don't have time for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to work 40 to 60 hours a week just to survive. You don't have time to think. You barely know yourself. You don't get to breathe fresh air. You definitely don't get organic food. And so America is truly a prison with 4 walls that is on the other side of the world. But you don't have to elect to stay in it if you do not want to. Now, remember, where you live determines your exposure to cost structures, policy decisions, supply chains. We've been talking about this on this channel. We're probably going to say it in every video. The Swahili Coast and the Indian Ocean trade routes are 2 of the most elite trade routes that exist on Earth and have always existed since ancient times. Do your own research, do your own homework, but we do cover some of that in the State of the Diaspora.
And it's increasing too.
Understand, waiting too long to consider these alternatives can reduce the number of options that you have available. This is not a call to panic. This is a call to think, to breathe. Call off work for a couple of days. Really think this through. Pray, fast, get some understanding, observe patterns rather than just the headlines. You need to understand systems rather than slogans, okay? And you need clarity instead of urgency. Because by the time urgency arrives, by the time all the folks in America are like, oh no, we gotta get out of here, the airports will be closed, the energy lockdowns will be in place, and it will become a question, not of whether you want to leave, when you want to leave, but if you can even leave in the first place.
That's deep. That's deep. That's what, it's just getting more difficult to do so. It's going to be more expensive, where you're going to have to dip into your savings to get a plane ticket, just to pay
your
for
house
your bags,
just to get a plane ticket.
things like that. So yes, it's going to get more difficult. So this is why we say it's urgent. It's urgent. So check the links in the description, guys. You know, make sure you like the video, leave your comments below, and we will talk to you in the next video.
Shalom.
Shalom.